Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the group. Today is October 20th, 2022. October has been flying by, and we are doing our regularly scheduled pre-US session analysis. And as you all know, my primary focus is the Dow Jones, but as usual, I will be going over all of the American indices, looking for potential setups, a little bit of market structure, and kind of understanding, what are going to be our primary moves going forward. So, welcome. Let's see, what site should I use to look at stocks? For Mac, you should use TradingView. That is the software that I use to kind of chart everything out. So I definitely recommend TradingView. Good platform. Very clear data, and you have a lot of tools and can pretty much chart anything. It's available on all platforms: Windows, Mac, iPhone, Android, all of those platforms. Yeah, I mean, so for your particular use, if you're new, kind of new into the markets, just go with the free membership for now until you can decide that, yeah, this is something that I want to be doing more full time and want to be independent, or want to be, taking trading to the next level as far as it becoming more of a steady stream of income. But I believe there is some sort of there is some promotion going on right now with TradingView, so it's not a bad idea to ever get the premium membership. The data is a little bit faster. You have no limitations on indicators, drawings, and all of those things. And you can see that my chart gets pretty cluttered. We have a lot of things going on, so never a bad idea to have that extra. Yeah, so it's 50% off of premium for 1 year, for the premium 1 year right now. So that's great. That's a great deal. 50% off is great. All right, so I'm gonna start with, what happened yesterday and what my anticipated moves are for today. So yesterday, we had pretty good moves short. Unfortunately, I missed that move, didn't get to send signal out, and I was just too preoccupied to actually get in on that trade. But it was a nice move down. And so I do not plan on missing any trades today, and will not be preoccupied during during session. So what we had yesterday was a good short from this zone. You take a look at this chart on the 1 hour, you can notice that it's been a very popular area in terms of price. As far as areas of liquidity, we had strong selling here. We kind of had an attempt for buying at this point that failed, and so naturally tapping back into that range, we saw a nice reaction to the downside. And the setup was really clean and apparent on the 15-minute. We had a little bit of a liquidity grab over the zone, and then perfect entry just below at this point here. That's where my VRS system comes in. You have a really nice drop in price, rapid retracement up for the perfect entry. You also note that there's this golden line here, and that is a monthly area of support resistance. And so kind of gives us that extra layer of confidence that you need to get into a trade and hold on to it, and all of those things. But I'm very meticulous about my entries, and so unfortunately I just wasn't able to get in at that perfect entry. You could see as you get into lower and lower time frames, that just really lined up with what I wanted to see and what we had discussed yesterday. Now, the potential trade that I was looking for, had we broken below this area with very little rejection and gotten to this zone in price, that I had wanted to see price kind of drop to this area, maybe even here, retrace this area, and then have us potentially continue short. But rather what we had was a relatively good downward move through that level, but it was followed by immediate buying pressure in strong reaction to an untapped area of liquidity, thus sweeping out these lows that I had kind of like focused on. So we ended up having that sweep, and then I entered that long end of day and entered more positions during Asia session, which is kind of not typical. And that move is starting to push upwards. And so my anticipated moves for today are kind of twofold. I believe that we're going to be, having this strong push up, take out anyone that has been short in these positions. Yesterday, we had a tremendous amount of volume printed on dark pools. So there was about, over $2 billion in divided between 4 institutions yesterday. So a lot of buying and selling yesterday, and we've had a nice little accumulation range in price, after hours. But now I think we're going to have that push up, kind of take out a bit of liquidity, and so maybe we are going to be heading towards the target 2 that I had set for the long position that we entered last Thursday. So I still have some of those positions. I'm going to just draw up and illustrate to show what I've been kind of eyeballing as the target. So around 30,950, I think we could have for that target. Now, this is going to be dependent on a couple of things. So one of those factors that I want to see is that we actually do continue to push price past these previous days where we've had selling pressure kick in. Those reactions to selling pressure really had to do with the very strong volume that we've had in this zone, giving us this drop, and so I think it's fairly likely that the longs are going to get into this area, and so I want to be very careful about exiting my long positions that I have left in this area prematurely, because there is theoretically some potential for price to push up into these areas. And so I'm not saying that the market has changed long-term direction and that we're not continuing a recession, but there is a possibility that we have a strong liquidity run similar to what we had in June and up through August, about to take out any type of sell side liquidity and then just really drop it out. So something similar could happen. I don't see the market being bearish any longer if we go past 35,550. And so I've been holding shorts from that price point, and I've closed most of my positions short at this point, just because of the way structure has kind of organized itself here. Now, I am interested in seeing how price reacts to this area today. While we've had these rejections and we've had even stronger rejections from the downside to kind of push us upwards, kind of along those lines of that area that I had mentioned yesterday, I think that I have to be very aware of what the possibilities are. So there is potential that we could have sell-offs continue from this area. There's potential for sell-offs to start in this area. There's also potential for us to just continue running up in price. And some of those areas that I am keen on seeing a reaction happen at, if we do break through 30,950, is probably going to be closer to looking at this third target for that particular impulse. But if we get to this target, then I will start to reconsider what type of long-term structure we have, depending on how the weeks start ending up, because you could see that we've had now 3 potentially bullish weeks, and all of that really could equate to a intermediate weekly structure change and maybe end up bringing us into all-time highs. I don't think the fundamentals support it, but as many of you know, I'm not really a trader or investor that really believes in anything about fundamentals. Very little, at least. The way that candlesticks are, the way that they give us data, and it is finished data that is confirmed by virtue of the candlestick being closed, already tells us what sentiment had happened or the ideas and thoughts of the market. And so I've never encountered a news event or anything that has just completely changed market direction unexpectedly. While fundamentals and news events can and have essentially added fuel to an already existing move, I've never seen a straight up reversal. I've talked about the COVID trade that my hedge fund did in the past as proof of that And so you can just watch other videos or refer to the YouTube channel to kind of see my thoughts and analysis on all of that. So this area here, we have our daily resistance. We have a area over in this point, daily kind of support, support, was support, resistance, support, all of that. Also weekly levels. And so I like taking trades from areas that are of higher time frames. The order blocks or zones of liquidity that are formed around those higher time frame areas usually net in larger trades in terms of points. And so I'm always going to be looking for those types of moves and taking the higher time frame trade, going to a lower time frame and really take that, trade with tighter stop loss afforded by a lower time frame. And so I think one of the common mistakes that a lot of traders make when they are really trying to get into these lower time frames and optimize their entries is that they go too low in time frame and it ends up being no longer productive. When you start getting stopped out multiple times and it starts affecting your own personal psychology if you get stopped out multiple times from the same price, and then you eventually see your trade go in your favor after you've already been taken out of the move. So being patient is one way to increase that rate of win, but then also, not going to too low of a time frame. The lowest time frame that I go to is the 5-minute, but I only go there after I see my actual trade idea being confirmed on a higher time frame. And so I'll give the example of this, that from this area that I've expected to see, that 1 hour area of liquidity having a reaction, that I've had that reaction, and I've had another kind of area in price where I've found, some buyers still present, and my other rules for my VRS system were present, and so I entered. Very simple, and seeing the setup, I'll show it down on the 5-minute time frame, and you can see like why I've had such favorable entries. So this was entry 1, and then I've had entries over in this area. My system relies on Vega and dark pool liquidity to find my prime entries, and so you'll see that this nice little tap right there was the prime entry, and take profit 2 has just been hit. So you'll see that that's again lining up with that monthly level, and so I'm very interested in seeing how price wants to react to that area now that we've returned there. I'm going to take partials right now, and then let the rest run to the other intended targets, and really watching how we end up reacting here. I think that we're going to be heading into a more bullish trend, at least for the day. But depending on how close we are to a certain zone as we approach jobless claims, will kind of dictate what I think is going to be the remaining trend for the rest of the week. Now, I know there's only 2 days left, but with 1 week left in the month, we've have a month that is so far looking quite bullish. But also note that we are now floating in an area, in that area where it was a previous area of support, and we've had the kind of typical break retest situation, but on a monthly time frame. And so looking at structure on higher time frames to kind of get your idea of what is the market going to be doing is really useful. And so this is potentially that break retest of a monthly price point. But it is also feasible that this could have been a very large monthly fake out and form the over under that I like to trade on lower time frames, and taking this long in a very long-term perspective. To kind of illustrate what that would look like for me, that would be something where the market pushed up like so, retraced down to this point, and then really took us to, really high all-time highs. This is something, like I said, that I don't think is very likely, but if it were to happen, all of the things that I am looking for that to happen are happening right now. if you look at how the month has shaped up in these 3 weeks, the volume is been mostly buy volume. Just and so if you're looking at my chart, I'm focused down in this area, down on the volume bars. So this area here, you can see that, the previous 2 months have been increasingly filled with selling pressure. And then this month so far has been lots of buying pressure. That's not to say that we won't have a lot of selling continue next week, but we may not. And so going down from higher time frame to lower time frame to kind of get a nice picture or idea of where we're going to see sellers potentially kick in, or buyers continue the move, is kind of important. So I'm looking at the potential reaction to this area for continued shorts. I do like the way that this zone looks for that short, and that puts us in between take profit 2 and take profit 3 of that daily impulse from last Thursday. So that's pretty good of a target. Now, as far as what is going to be my confirmation that that is going to be our move, that we are going to continue that short, well, I'm going to need to see price kind of push into that area, reject, and change structure on at least the daily and 4-hour time frame. So I want to see both of these time frames go bearish to really kind of say we're going to continue our bearish move downwards. Certainly possible. And as much as I want to try and predict and anticipate moves in the future, all I can do is plan for areas of interest for me, where I can find higher probability trades and react accordingly. So long as I plan for a certain move, I trade my plan and I stick to it. Now, that's going to be the key to consistency in the market and being successful in the space in general. So I'm going to be planning for potentially a short up here and potentially shorts in these ranges here. And like I said, I'm going to need to see certain candles give me those rejections. So I'm going to want to see on, for this zone, this being a 4-hour zone in my book, I'm going to want to see a 30-minute rejection, maybe even a 15-minute, as low as a 15-minute. That's a bit more aggressive, but if I see the structure change the way that I like to see it, then it'll be viable. I mentioned also that, we've had this downtrend of liquidity. We kind of broke out of, I'm not a trend line trader. That's just not how markets work, but it does have, drawing trend lines does help in kind of visualizing, an impulse or a leg of a move. A lot of people they understand that an upward trend is a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, all of that, but maybe they're not able to identify when that leg is kind of done, like when your buy impulse leg is off and you're starting to have a retracement. And so trend lines can kind of help with that. It doesn't necessarily make it tradable or give you the confirmations of levels that I teach my students or the way that I trade, but it does give you a visual that could perhaps help you in being somewhat objective. It's just another layer of confidence for you to trade. I believe in simplicity, and this is one way to simplify visualizing trends in the market. So that's just one thing that I do, and there's a litany of other things that we can do, but of course it's going to be up to you as an individual to see what works for you. So if we have a reaction short, the level where I expect a dark pool to have a reaction is pretty clear. And my optimal entry is going to be between these two levels. So I'm going to mark up I think I have a kind of line that I use for entries as a template. So we'll have that marked up like so. This is a potential entry area that I'm looking at for a short. Now, if that trade doesn't happen, if we end up pushing above that area, I will wait for this area where I was expecting shorts to come in to be an area where buyers could come in. And then I'll start targeting these areas above like so and have stops something like this. I'm going to wait for VRS to kind of kick for all of my conditions to be present, and I'll be looking at these other key areas in price. Note that there seems to be a very large gap in around 31,425. And so somewhere along that area, we could see a potential reaction. I'm going to bring up volume profile because this is something that can be very useful. This is the session volume profile tool, and you'll see that the area of the most concentrated price, where we've had the most volume during this particular session, happened to be the area that we reacted to in our shorts this week. So these areas, these zones can be, areas that we react to again in the future. The strength of those areas can, of course, be depleted by virtue of orders being fulfilled. And so an area where there was a lot of buying pressure isn't going to be filled with buyers forever, and vice versa. So sellers aren't always going to be present in an area where selling was present. You can see that yesterday's session volume profile, you can see our point of control was this area, and we had those shorts, but today our point of control happens to be buys from this area down below. Now, if we retrace down to this area, there's no guarantee that buyers are going to continue, but pretty good chance. Pretty good chance at this point in time. But if they don't, then if I'm not in the short from these areas up here, per my system, I would be having entering short throughout this range. If I don't enter short throughout here, throughout this area, then I will wait for market to again push down below this area and take advantage of a retracement should it happen. Doesn't always happen. It happens quite often, but it's not guaranteed. The trade from last Thursday, where we had our entries down below, we haven't retraced. We didn't have an opportunity for a VRS retracement to join in on the move. And so, that entire day was almost 2,000 points. And, we've been very happy about the trades that we've taken for the past couple of weeks. So this area for shorts, this area up here for potential longs, this area down here for potential shorts. Those are the areas that I have in mind. Those are the areas I have planned. Anyone have questions on the Dow before I move on to anything else? All right, so I'm going to take a look at the S&P 500. So you might notice that the Nasdaq and the S&P have a structure that varies slightly from the Dow, and it's not off by much. It might be more clear on the daily time frame. So you look at these indices, and you kind of notice that the S&P is, closer to yesterday's close than the Dow is. The Dow has been pushing throughout London session and pushing us up a bit higher. So the momentum doesn't seem to have gathered for the S&P just yet, and I believe also for Nasdaq. So they're a bit lower in price right now, but typically the indices are going to move together. But if there is one that is an outlier, sometimes that outlier will be the one that is indicative of the sentiment of the indices. So with the Dow being higher up in price presently, maybe the intent of institutional money is to push indices up higher. Of course, for the health of the economy and the morale of the American people, I'd love to see, the indices push up back to close to all-time highs, but it just doesn't seem very likely on the technicals right now. But there are some signs to me in part of my system that kind of illustrate that maybe the bearish run is potentially done. It's really way too early to have any confirmation of that, but it's certainly a possibility. So keeping that in mind. Now, note a couple of things here. This was a longer time frame. I think this was a daily zone that I marked up prior. Kind of building this liquidity on the 4-hour time frame could be priming us for the push up. You see that we have a small bit of a liquidity zone in this area. and we had reacted to it, went short, but we ended up reacting to this area that we had selling volume and came an area where we found some more buying volume. So I don't believe that, at least at this price point, in this zone, that we will have a short continuation from there. It just does not look to be a very likely situation, but perhaps higher up in price. And I will go to a lower time frame to kind of analyze any type of gaps that may have formed when we had our massive drops in price. So you can see that everything's pretty much filled, at least as far as I like to look at charts, in this area. So maybe the sweep above, but also maybe looking at our 1 hour time frame, then maybe we could have shorts continue from this area. You can see that, and we had this initial drop with the break in structure. We had the VRS entry short right here, and I think this would have gone to take profit 2 or 3. So taking a look at that, very nice prime entry, almost to take profit 3, just shy of it, and starting to have the push up. I think that this is going to be the fake out for shorts in this area. Could be wrong, but if this is an area where we have a confirmation of short, so we have a rejection, come back to the area, retrace, and we continue to move short, then I'm going to be looking for to target down in this area for those shorts. But again, I think it's going to be more likely that we push up a bit higher before having the drop. We do have a lot of this trend line, sell side liquidity in this area. So it seems that we could have a sweep upwards before having the drop. And maybe that sweep upwards takes us beyond these points here, and or even here. Tough to tell right now. And so just watching price action and being aware of what is likely to happen, and keeping everything in mind from a big picture perspective. Now, big picture, so I just showed on the monthly time frame on the Dow, probably similar on the S&P. We've had this very strong break below the lows. This low specifically, that we have a candlestick close below that low. Those are very important types of changes or breaks in structure to me. And while nothing is confirmed just yet, seeing how we have so far rejected that general area on the S&P, we actually mark it up for this chart. And I'll go with 37,775, since that puts us at the median point between these two levels. So this was an area of kind of resistance, now acted as support. Maybe we're using this area as resistance again. So looking at how we had that breakdown last week, continuing down, and just the other day we rejected this area and started having that short come in. So it's entirely possible that we may not break out to the upside or the downside today or tomorrow. Since we have these news events coming up today, I think that could be a sufficient catalyst to at least give us a direction somewhere. But maybe this ends up looking like, I'm really leaning towards longs playing out for today and the rest of the week. Really based off of a couple of things. We have this low, this drop even lower. We have structure that kind of fakes and makes people think of going long or going short, and is not something that could work out. Kind of an example of this in the past that you may see is that having structure that looks like it is bullish over here, where you have a perceived high and then what looks like a higher high, and then the market goes lower. We're at the tops of ranges, particularly on lower time frames. Is it more common, easier to spot? So I can give an example. Having a high, a higher high, most people aren't expecting a drop after that type of sequence where it looks like you have a high, a higher high, and then people expect the retracement down and then the continuation up most of the time. And so the inverse happens to be true in what I've experienced on my time in the markets. So seeing a move that comes down and then retraces up a bit, comes down lower, and then rapidly shoots up, ends up being my area to go long, like, these other trades that we've called. So on our daily time frame on the Dow and S&P and on Nasdaq, we have a structure that kind of looks like something that wouldn't be a continued long position. But I think it's possible right now, especially the levels that we're building off of. So similar to the Dow, I'm going to look for shorts somewhere within these ranges, as close to the higher side of price as possible. My VRS entry, ideal entry, would be within these levels. And the way that everything has kind of played out on the S&P as I see it here, seems to me that my optimal entry would be to go short at 3750-ish. So I'm looking for something like this. I might even be generous with my stop and put it above that monthly level, just to give it some extra breathing room, in case there's significant volatility. Typically, I will have my stop just like this, though, and this works out most of the time. So that's going to be take profit 1, and we have 2, 3, 4, and 5. If we are going to be continuing the bearish trend, then this is going to be the full extension for this particular impulse that I'd be willing to target for these shorts. But we'll wait and see. Looks like I said, it looks like we are having a reaction to this larger zone. This is probably a 15-minute block of liquidity here, yes. And so I want to see structure changes before joining this move. Potentially could see it on a 5-minute time frame. That may be safe, and I'm going to be watching volume. And I say 5-minute could be safe in this particular situation because similar to how we were working this potential long the other day, and how we were working with the shorts from this range as well. So looking pretty similar, the way that we're breaking these types of structure points, the way that structure has painted itself here on the 5-minute. And then I want to see the 15-minute kind of have those closes. Maybe we won't get the best ideal entry point, but still could potentially join the trade. I'd like to see the retracement back into this area. Maybe that has already, it hasn't quite happened yet. So I want to see it react to this area, push back up, respect it, and then we can go short. And I'll enter at these 2 yellow levels as it falls down if the structure looks to be the way that I want to see it. Nasdaq, maybe I don't have to go over this since their structure with the S&P is so similar. Yeah, it's pretty much identical. So going to watch for that same type of move, and I'm going to set an alert on Nasdaq and on the S&P in case we end up clearing out these areas. So let me watch that. And for the Dow, I'm going to be actively watching this, so that's not really going to be necessary to mark up like that. Now, GJ. Also kind of interesting. I thought that we could perhaps retrace in price down to this area. Has not been the case. You can see instead that we have this zone that's kind of between our areas and kind of have a perceivable price gap, and had a good reaction to that area. It's also, this hidden order block and the median price of that block that we have this reaction. So pretty good. First target would be up here should this trend continue. But again, being patient is going to be very crucial, especially leading up to this type of news event. So going to wait that out and see what we're going to have. Good morning, Sean. So that's the kind of situation with GJ. I always talk about tops and bottoms of perceivable ranges. So we have a top, we have a bottom. I'm going to say a bottom in this area because that's where we've reacted to, which was obviously a top at some point. But I'm not looking to enter trades in the middle of ranges It's a 50-50 shot, and those are not good odds in my book. Look for the higher probability trades. So, excuse me, I have not slept yet since yesterday. So we have a bottom range here. I'm going to be buying from bottoms. I'm going to be selling from tops. Quite simple. If you understand support and resistance as like a general concept, just kind of keep in mind, buy at support, sell at resistance. And this will help you in not making silly, impulsive trade decisions. A lot of times people, and this is how we get, we as like institutions, at least the way that my institution operated, the way that we would get liquidity for our trades is by doing these fake outs. So a lot of people will see a very volatile move. I'm going to use last Thursday as the example because it's a perfect example of this. Most people would have seen this drop, and a lot of people would have been FOMOing into this trade, expecting, because it's such a large candle, to kind of push down and continue our bearish move. But if you all remember, it's also on YouTube, that at the time I thought that this, our push up in this area, that we would have a liquidity run, at least taking out this area. And which is why I didn't take the short, but that ended up not happening. And instead, I was ready and prepared for the long, according to the system down below right here, and called that on our webinar. You guys can see that on YouTube. And you can actually use that as like a good learning lesson, because there were a lot of confluences and a lot of things that I talked about validating that particular move. So that's that. People get scared on aggressive moves. They end up missing trades, and just got to recognize when it's liquidity, fake outs, and all of these things, and it's going to take you a long way. And I think that we're going to have that liquidity run up, like I said. So yeah, that's those are our indices. That's what I'm expecting to see. I mean, I'm up a significant percentage this week because of I've had some really good trades throughout the week. Monday was a bit slow, but still got a nice counter trend trade. Tuesday had great moves, both up and down. So very happy. And yesterday, I mean, I did miss a trade, but I did catch another. So it all works out. Keep in mind that there aren't always high probability trades. So I tell all my students, I tell all of you that you really should be planning and only thinking about taking, max of 2 or 3 trades per day. There are only so many high probability situations. And if you just start entering numerous trades over and over again, that's really how you get into revenge trading and end up blowing your account. And I don't want to see anybody do that. It's not a lesson that you need to learn the hard way. All right, so let's go over, let me continue going over. Let me get the water first. Stay hydrated, everyone. So this is looking fairly interesting for me, actually. So let me actually watch this. I'm going to have this pulled up on my terminal. And yeah, this is a potential good lower time frame short, with the potential to be a longer duration trade. So part of planning trades. So if we have a nice VRS entry, had the liquidity runs and price that I want to see, this could be that good trade. I'm gonna watch that, and I will have a stop at 37, we'll call it 37.15 on S&P, and on the Dow I would have stop at 30,640. To be really safe, it would be 36.75. RR might not be as good with that high of a stop, so for system, this is a fairly good stop, and I would be waiting for an entry to be something like that, and to first take profit somewhere in this range. The stop does need to be tighter to be I need to see a better RR than that to enter this as a trade. So I'll wait on that. All right, so I'm going to be watching that on my terminals off to the side on my other monitors. Let me take a look at Tesla. So yesterday had some great predictions on this particular move. We had the block, we had the extra trade, we had the move down, some good money entering block to block, very nice. And we had, in a reaction to this other block of liquidity up. So just shy of that zone. But still, the reaction is there, and very sharp downward move, bringing us back to another area of liquidity. So now we're back within this blue zone, very high time frame. Could see that long kind of continue from here. I think it's very important to note that a lot of people are going to be having a very similar idea when it comes to areas of resistance. And so you have to be very careful as far as, entering in too early and letting the confirmation come. Very careful when we're in these ranges, especially when price is this tight. I mean, we're starting to really kind of turn into a more bullish move. We have these kind of lower, it's lower time frame, but still breaks that are pushing us up, not breaking the important area in price that I'm fixated on, which is why I'm considering taking the short in this area. But again, I'd like to see a little deeper of a retracement. And if we don't get it, then it's just a missed trade. And so that's okay. That's totally fine. But if the short does come in, I am willing to target this area here, because this, by virtue of price coming down this low, I think it's fairly likely that price is going to continue lower, having depleted this potential zone. We've tapped into this general area in price numerous times, and we've failed to continue the upward trend. So to me, this is a clear illustration of weakness in buyers, but that does not preclude the possibility that buyers could come in today. Billions came in yesterday. Billions can come in again today. So be prepared for, gotta be prepared for everything. And what I'm also liking is that, we've had rejection to my entry points, and we've continued to have more rejections to each entry point, even at, as I've moved our bottom impulse lower and lower according to market structure. It's something that's kind of complicated for the system, is proprietary to how I've developed it. So I'm trying not to ask too many questions on it, but I'm going to go over it with my students at some point in the future. So that's that. That's that on our American indices for today. That's it for the American indices. That was a good kind of practice to look at our other indices abroad and kind of gauge what type of moves they've had. Now, it's not that there's a correlation every time with other indices, but it could be at least somewhat of a sign of, international strength in markets and confidence in economic recovery. And again, it's not a guarantee of anything, but we can look at it for some reference. And this can come and give us potentially false confidence, but if it helps you with confidence and you have all the other ducks in a row and all you need is help with is confidence, then do whatever you got to do to maintain that confidence. Realize your true potential. I was just saying on the group before we started recording, that you have people that do things and they try to reflect back, particularly with like sports performances, but even with trading, you start to look back I tell you all to journal because you do need to know where you've made errors, but you also need to not allow those errors to be the thing that defines you or your career or your pursuit in being a professional trader. It's not, you're not defined by your failures, you're defined by your reaction to those failures. The same way that you're not defined by your wins as a trader, you're defined by how you react and handle your losses. So realize your potential. Just kind of have a conscious decision. Just wake up one day and decide, you know what? I'm just going to make better trades. Just going to be better. Just going to be the best that I can be. Like, I already know the stuff. I already know how to do the trades. I've spotted trade setups properly, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that you've been hard on yourself nitpicking in the past, just wake up and go, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Like, so I'll use like a soccer analogy, like for a striker, maybe they've taken shots on goal and they've come close, but they've missed. I'll just tell that person, just decide you're just going to go and score some goals. That's it. Just simplify it. It's a conscious decision. Just decide that you're just going to be. And you'll be surprised at how far it takes you. You'll be surprised at how far it takes you. It's just really, really believe in yourself. Because if I can do this stuff, you can too. Anybody can do it. Anybody can be great at it too. You just have to put in the work. Even with where I am in my personal life financially, I'm still putting in those extra long hours. I love what I'm doing, so that's why I do it. But some people, they find things as enough, and I'm never going to let myself be complacent. That's just not who I am. So it's not enough, and it's okay to not have it be enough. Like, let yourself push yourself. Just continue to strive. So I don't really like the way that this is necessarily looking. Yeah, not really. Well, no, this is actually okay still, but I'm gonna wait a little bit and I'm gonna let volume die out on buying and then see some selling pressure increase before I take a short on this. Although this, looks pretty good on the 15. Just need to see that volume really change. I want to see it be in the direction that I think it could be. So I'm just going to keep watching on my other terminal. Take a look at gold. Yesterday, we had some reactions here. I was hypothesizing maybe the long is going to continue from there. But for my particular system, dark pool is going to be at these levels. And for this being a very high time frame kind of impulse to be measuring, then seeing it come down to this red line is, in alignment with what I would expect for this instrument where a long could happen. And you have a small confirmation on an hourly time frame. But as far as it being a 4 hour, you also have that as well. But is it going to be enough to take price to the take profit one for this particular buy impulse? Is this really an impulse that is going to be a continuation of a downward trend? And I don't think so. I don't think so. So I'm going to be waiting to see how market is going to react to these areas because of this daily area of quote unquote support, daily area of resistance, which is just really indicative of strong areas of liquidity for me to be spotting. And so looking for those gaps, a gap somewhere on a time frame that is between these zones, and potentially whipping out my session volume profile tool to kind of see where we've had low volume kind of nodes to kind of see a reaction or non-reaction. And so in this area, you have low volume node and some volume kicking right now, but not really painting the whole picture. So I'm going to wait on that. I think that we could really look out for a short continuation at 1644 on gold. So I'd be looking for that. I wouldn't be taking the long necessarily at this point because the opportunity was there. Seeing a long and writing it up to 1644 from this area, it just doesn't really make too much sense to me. ERR is not there. So just waiting for a good setup, waiting for it to happen. I didn't stock this setup yesterday. So, no harm in waiting a little bit longer for another setup. I'm also not, I'm not the biggest fan of gold. I've had some great trades on it. I've held really nice long duration short on gold. But I make so much more money trading the Dow. So it's really a matter of sticking to what has worked for me. The trade system I've developed works on everything. So we can theoretically trade everything. I've given examples on Bed Bath and Beyond in recent months and weeks that did play out to the T, and that video is on YouTube, so you guys can check that out. Yeah, this is really where we're at, and I think the short looks like we could actually take this. I might actually take this. I'm gonna wait for one more 5-minute candle to kind of give me that extra bit of confirmation that I'd like to see. This looks pretty darn good though. And I don't think we've quite retraced deep enough yet. So I'm going to wait for the retracement to get deeper into that range and then, potentially take that ride out. So that's, like I said, I think that optimal entry for this level is going to be right here at 35.95. And I'll probably be out of most of the position by 34.50. But I'll leave runners just in case. But this being kind of a lower time frame entry, it's can get a little messy. All right. Done GJ, I've talked gold, done our indices a bit. Anything else? Let's see. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bullish run up so far. And still in accordance with those other entries we've had from last Thursday. And so this looks like a pretty strong level of accumulation, liquidity broken out in almost both directions. And so I think the push upwards can be pretty likely, at least for Bitcoin. But then again, now that I'm looking at it, I do see that kind of area or price that I kind of, I could see a short happening right at that point here. I could see the short happening here actually. So just right over there. So I'm gonna, I'll sit tight on this one. But it has had a long period of accumulation, which could be that liquidity to have us push back up to at least levels that are significantly better than where we are now. We've been down low for quite some time, and I'd really like to see that have a bit of a recovery. Let's do something new today. Let me get a cursory look at THBUSD. Okay, still at 38 baht. Okay, so there's the trade model. You can see that we've had that level, attack that level, and then kind of the liquidity hunt, rapid retracement short. I'm still beyond for a target at 37. We'll call it 125 on THBUSD. That's what I think is in the cards for that instrument. Just got to be really patient to let it get to those targets. There is a lot in the way, so to speak, in terms of this area of accumulation. But once we kind of break through that, then it's kind of a pretty clear road between these two price points to get down there. So we'll wait on that. Let's see. Let's look at AMD. I haven't charted this in a while, certainly not with our webinars. But this was something that I was trading when we were, up in these prices. And so I went short in this area because of some lower time from confluence stuff, and shorts in these areas also made sense. So that is, yeah, I don't think I don't think, I don't think this stock is ready to recover just yet. All right, so I'm switching back to this because I want to see, how we end up reacting to this area. Now that we're getting closer to that retracement, that's deep enough for me to take an entry. So being patient. So that was just an eyeballed potential entry point. I think the most probable one is right there. I'm aware of this volume, so I'm going to see if we potentially have a fake out, kind of liquidity grab above this wick before I kind of commit. So I'll wait on that. We're going to see that we have this, what looks like an order block, and this kind of induces people into taking the buys. And I don't think this doesn't look like a zone that I would want to be trading off of. So patience. And again, context. We're right at that monthly level. I'm actually going to enter this trade on a smaller account. I can get all my terminals lined up here. Looking at my higher time frames, kind of make sure that I'm not just being hasty in getting in on this move. So looking at 30-minute, the hour, also looking at what time it is. Like, we're getting kind of close to our news event. So we are short in this area. I'm going to make sure that I put stops in profit and take partials before the news event in case the direction is for buys and it goes against us. So let's see. I'm gonna let these 5-minute candles play out first. And I'll be logging off at 8:15. I'm not going to, well, maybe I'll trade this. This will be the last news event that I'll trade live. I think that it's kind of it's just not something that I enjoy necessarily. Trading live and all these accounts that I am at the same time, it's I journal my results, I journal my feelings, I journal what I've done, what has happened, and I learn from my mistakes. And so all of you should as well. A mistake is only in vain if you don't learn from it. And there are going to be plenty of mistakes made in trading the markets. But as long as you learn from them, you can grow. If you grow, you will inevitably become a great trader. Just gotta not quit. All right, so let me see that. I'm gonna keep watching that. Still focused on it. I'm going to let it go. Let it go. See that volume? I'm not going to chase it right now because I'm weary of this area right here. So if you look at it on a line chart, we had that little bit of a pullback here. I don't like that. That's not usually a good sign for me. But if we end up breaking that area and then retracing back, then I'll consider it. So I'm not trying to jump in too early on the fake out. I would rather miss a trade than get in on a trade that doesn't hit everything that I'm looking for. Because yeah, if I got in, we could be making some points on it. But if this move ends up retracing aggressively right now, back to the upside, I wouldn't be very happy. I would be unhappy with myself for having gotten in at an inopportune time. And so I'll wait. I'll wait and see if we have that retracement. There will always be another trade. So now at this point, right, what I like and what I would like, seeing price kind of push up, a bit deeper right here, and then taking that short. Kind of like the fake out that I'm talking about. But also need to see that once we tap those levels that we have a very rapid reaction. That's the hallmark of the system. And it's called VRS because it's Vega retracement strategy. I'm looking for high Vega. We have relatively high Vega in that impulse up, which makes it look attractive. But the way that price action looks right now, and comparing the 15-minute candles, just not what I'd like to see. And why I'm thinking that we're going to have that buy move up a bit, and then maybe the short will happen. And if it doesn't happen within the next 10 minutes, I'm going to wait for the news event to open the trade. And so, like I've said, we have only so many high probability trades during the day. There's only so many moves that are going to be an entire day's worth of trading. So which one's it going to be? And so I want to be able to take advantage of the largest move of the day, if not taking advantage of both large moves of the day. But when you're new and you're still figuring trading out, it's not like I'll always advocate for you to just stick to one particular, trend direction. So if you think the market's bearish, stick to that bearish sentiment and only look for your short trades. It takes years to have the confidence to take a big short and a relatively large long trade in the same day. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing by God to be able to see these things the way that I do, and to have blessed with this system. But gotta be thankful. Gotta be thankful. Also very thankful for all of you being here, because whole goal Traders Exodus is to deliver trading education that will help your financial literacy and deliver you from financial turmoil, and learn a skill set that will serve you for a lifetime, create generational wealth for you. And we are kind of on the cusp of a time period in American history where this could be the greatest opportunity for our generation, at least for, at least probably for at least 10 years. And it sounds like a guess, because it is, but this recession could continue for quite a long time. Could also potentially end soon. And if it is ending soon, then that opportunity for buying, companies at very good valuations and very good discounts is right now. But the risk of loss at this point in time is also fairly high. But if you do have some investable money and you do want to put some money and have some exposure, in case this market does rally to new highs, then it wouldn't hurt to buy certain companies that are at very heavy discounts from their all-time highs. Ones that still have upside recovery potential. I could talk about those if there are stocks or companies you're interested in, take note of them and I can discuss it during the webinar tomorrow. I'll do that for y'all. That means you're gonna have to wake up early on a Friday. A lot of people don't like that, but I do. So think about those things. I know that everyone has stocks that they're a fan of, that they like. So maybe it'll be a good investable opportunity. If company's all-time high was like $50 and it's only at like $5 right now, your upside potential is so much higher than your downside risk. Because if it's that cheap, even if the market continues to capitulate downwards like I think it will, if it's cheap enough, then it won't matter. And you can conceptualize that if you put in a nominal amount of money into a bunch of shares to a bunch of companies, that if you just hang on to them, they don't, they're not losses until you close. Or if they close down as a business, which is definitely possible. Ranting a little bit, but think about it. All right, so we're approaching final 34 seconds of this candle, and I want to see. Everything is 50-50, even when we were born. Yeah, man. Fonzo said he's grateful to be on this team. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm grateful to have you all. Grateful to have you all. All right. So there it is. There's that structure, that potential push up. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm waiting to see if it's going to push up and give me that little fake out, maybe do a liquidity grab, maybe put me into the price point that I actually take my trades from. Like I'm not going to take, a typical retail Fibonacci retracement trade. It just doesn't work. These are not really Fibonacci levels. They're just levels that I've discovered that correlate with what I'm trying to spot in the market, and it works. So if it doesn't hit my levels, I don't take the trade. If it's really close on higher time frames, more than these 5-minute ones, on these 5-minute time frames, I want to see like precision. But if it's a higher time frame situation, I give a margin of error of a few points. I mean, this is just short a little bit. It's 14 points. 14 points on the Dow is something, but I'm not gonna. I would rather miss a trade than take the entry like this and violate my own rules and my own system. And that's it really. Now it looks like on a very low time frame that the VRS had kicked here. This is probably a 1-minute setup. Yes, it is. And I'm not gonna chase that. That's okay. It's all right. Discovered by Mr. Jones, yes sir. Yes sir, Alfonso, that's right. Gonna have White Rock soon. In a few years, I'm sure. And I should mark up. I don't think I have my 4 hours marked. Oh, it's in alignment with that monthly level. So cool. So back to the 5. Yeah, make sure you keep track of that notebook. Stay consistent. Keep your goals at front of mind. Journal your trades. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna give this until 8:20. It looks like the short is going to be a good trade to look out for. So I'm going to look at the 30-minute time frame and see if there's a zone that makes sense to me. Could be this. I think more likely to be these ones up here. If we don't have the short from here, of course. That's the requirement. Questions. Anything? Look at Euro USD before I get ready for the news. What is it? Somewhere here. Oh, already selected. Okay. So into a zone in price and looking like this potential order block situation. You can see how we had that wick rejection. The way that I'm looking at this, I think the reaction is actually going to be up here in this particular zone. And we'll see about that. Now back to the Dow. We'll look at that. See, no go over here. Not falling for those 1 minute setups. Those little traps. Same price, kind of wick up above like so. Maybe that's the entry. If we start seeing it just drop, then that's probably it. And like I said, the stop just above. We're very close to this news event, so it's risky. It's risky-ish, but I also, yeah, I mean, we have this. Yeah, I'm gonna wait this out. This is now looking more bullish than it's bearish. But that's a nice rapid rise up in price, which is what I want to see. So I'm going to curious. I'm curious. I really like this as an entry point. That looks really good to me. Not liking the high time frame, how it's lining up, but that is a nice little push right here that I do like to see. Maybe we're actually going to react to that zone here, and maybe the stop is more applicable to be with an entry here and stop up here. This would give us a full opportunity on this particular move. So might give it that. You see it. Very close to that event. So I'm going to set stop tentatively, and the tentative stop is up at 36.87. And this would be essentially the last opportunity for a short to happen from this range. And I'm not entering yet. I'm going to wait it out because I'm not so certain of this just yet. So that particular little impulse didn't work out. We didn't have all those criteria that I wanted to see. And, this zone looks pretty good, but like I was saying earlier that we are having that bit of a sweep. And so that could be from this particular zone. And if we wait, I'm going to wait for, what's another 7 minutes to wait? So I'm going to let that play. We'll let that play first. So we have swept some liquidity. We haven't quite swept this yet. And as far as zones are concerned, where I would take trades from, this is about it. This would be the last one that I in this range that would make sense to me. So waiting for us to tap into that, or to just have a flood of volume to the downside on this, which could happen right here on this candle. But waiting. Looking at volume as well. I like this zone a lot. Certainly more than these two areas. So we'll wait for that and looking for that nice entry in this area. Might even be at this price right here. With stop, we'll put stop over at 37.40 perhaps. We have a couple of these low time frame zones, but I don't care about them. So I've got my magic keys queued up, ready to take the short. Should it become apparent? I'm going to the 5-minute to monitor volume and see what I want to see. And yeah, take profit 1 on this trade is going to be at 30, we'll call it 32.50, just down here. Just like this is charted out. Should this move happen? We gotta wait and see. Patience. Two minutes, 45 seconds. Oh, and always, kind of mentally remind yourself. I do this personally. Like remind yourself, your future is better than your past. It's always going to be better than your past. There's nothing that you've done or experienced in the past that's better than what you have coming to you in the future. So stay on track. Stay on track. All right. This is, it's a very high time frame zone there. So oh, really? Well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. That's interesting. They never tried to sell me on anything, but I wonder why. It's interesting. Yeah, it's cool. everyone's, I mean, it's the beauty of the markets. Like everybody sees the same data, but we all interpret it a little differently, you know? I love it. I love it, man. I love it. All right. Okay. Let's watch this volume. And I think I'm going to pull up the volume profile tool just as well. Yeah, I mean, we're at the edge of this, you know, what's acceptable, really. I mean, we have some volume up there. I mean, yeah, this could be that short. We'll see it. We'll see it. And I'll kind of pull a view up. Yeah, I mean, the short looks good to me, man. Good to me. Mm-hmm. 25 seconds. Oh, 20. And so after this, if there's a trade, if we take a trade here during this event, I won't take another trade until the open, win or lose. And I will log off and take a bit of a break. Got to give your eyes a break. Got to reset your ultradian rhythm before you kind of continue. So there's that volatility. Ooh, that is juicy. Yeah, that's quick. Yeah, I'm not jumping in that yet. I will allow it to. It could be the love tap into that little zone and the push up, or it could be tap into this price and then the drop down. I think though that these longs are the ones that are going to pay for today. Let's see. Bouncing around a little bit. Like what it's doing. I don't like the way structure looks just yet on this time frame, really. But we're like right in between that range. So, you know, I'm gonna look at that volume. Fives. Pull up. Volume profile. I'm looking for that short. I want to see a nice retracement. The aggressive move was to get in up there, but I'm not trying to risk it with y'all right now. I'm not trying to fall for a fake out, so I want to see like a nice structure for us before doing it. And that requires a different structure than what we have here on the 5. Although it does look good right now. It does look pretty good. I do like the drops. I do like the increase in that sell volume. But I want it to be with the system. And I want it to be okay. All right. I'm gonna look for the entry at 36.25. Hopefully we drop down and we retrace. And again, I'm gonna be targeting like low lows down at 32.50. Hopefully we can get the retrace to get in on this move. If not, bummer. But I think we're gonna get it. I hope. Oof. All right. So what I want now that I'm seeing structure, the beginning of structure that I like, now I just got to see the retracement back to the level and have the short continue. And so those in premium, you've heard me say aggressive trade. The aggressive trade would have been getting in at the top there. And the confirmation trade is the one that I'm going to try and give you guys if we get it. We are looking still pretty bullish even with all that. So maybe this could just be a very aggressive retracement short, a retracement for this long position. And so I'm going to see what kind of reaction we get between 33.80 and 34.25. That will kind of indicate to me the strength of everything. Very nice candle. I mean, how many points is that? It's 150 points. That's pretty nice in 15 minutes. Less than 15, really. Very large candle, actually. Might be too large. All right. So for the Dow, I am trading CFDs. I am not doing any options on this right now. I don't do options pre-market. So this is something that I trade on a CFD terminal, contract for difference, Forex terminal, and it's easy to get in and out of positions, 24-hour, basically 24-hour market. So yeah, that's my kind of my preferred instrument. There's also a host of other benefits of why I trade on these types of terminals. So my broker, I can send you a link for that. Pretty easy, pretty quick. So yeah, so that's how I do that. That's how I trade. CFD terminal. The puts, I will do puts on longer term positions and other certain trades. But these pre-market trades are not the ones that I do options on. And with options, I'm very cautious because there are certain trades and moves that you have to time differently because timing is so crucial with options. So I'm not one to trade options daily. Oh, and I just see that this was a private message. So someone asked, excuse me, for DJI, are you putting in an options put on DIA? How are you shorting this? And so the answer is CFD terminal. Some people call them Forex brokers. That's how. So we're going to, it's too bad. I think that it could be, we're hitting a ripe area for a buy, actually. This is pretty ripe for buy trade. This is a nice area for buys right here. And so these shorts were probably the retracement. Buy would be pretty good here. Maybe shorts don't kick in over here. Maybe they do. So I'm not going to take this buy move or prospective buy move here because I think that the short is prime right here. And so having what is a very low probability setup in my mind to just go to right to this area, it's like that's a 3R, like no thanks. Not with how risky this is. I mean, you have that much volume coming against you. I mean, I like taking aggressive trades, but this is not one that I will take. And so you look at the 5 minute, you can just kind of see, little tiny kind of, it looks like an order block, order block, order block, order block, all that stuff. And then I'm watching, volume profile, seeing if buyers kind of step in here. Looking at, previous days volume, this has been kind of a price, but not like terribly popular. So I'm not expecting huge reactions there. Whereas this area, this price zone here, you can see it was a point of control. So no surprise that the volume did kick there. But I want that confirmation entry, and I want to be sure that this is, I want to be a part of the larger trend trade for the day. And I think it's going to be the short, but it could also be the long, as I discussed earlier this morning. So this is potentially just noise. We get a retracement to this area for shorts, then we can do that. We are retracing into an area for those potential longs. So I'm looking out for the longs in this area. And so I'm going to show you the impulse that I'm measuring and looking at. So this does look feasible for the long. So the way that these candles are dropping from that level seem to me to be more of a this could just be high time frame liquidity building for a buy move up. So gotta wait. And so if you did get on the short, I would be taking profits, partial profits now. Close like 25%, maybe even 50% of position. And we'll let it play. But like I said, points of interest, I'm interested in seeing a potential long here. And then I'm interested in seeing how we end up reacting up here. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up I'm gonna wrap up this call actually in like a couple minutes, but just want you all to be aware, take a look at view up. Again, it's not like magic, but something to watch, to be aware of. It's one reason why this short looked good from up here. And then, the way that this is going to play, we might not get that. Retracement to get in on this short. So we might have to go for that trade where if we break below this level that we have a retracement back into the area. Maybe. That might have to be it. So we're gonna see. And I'm not, yeah, that's not cool. Very nice move. It's 200 points. Let's see. Any other questions before I head out? Log off. I should be able to put this webinar up quicker than the other ones, so this should be online today. I'm going to start the editing process after my break, and yeah. Hey, thank you, Joe. You have a great day too. Hope you all have a great day. Remember that there is another news event today, and be ready for that. You might have that other opportunity, so might have that other trade. So be on the lookout, and well, have a great day. Stay positive, and premium. Take a look out for signals. All right, everyone. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.